Hi, Ollie. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Tim. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. We've already had an affiliate perspective from Adam and Gamblers to talk about crypto, and we're really happy to hear from the operator side from you guys today.
Cool. No, again, very, very happy to be here. So thank you so much for having me. I'd like to point out that I'm not sort of like a crypto expert, but I do know a couple of things for working for a crypto casino. So
Sure.
hopefully I should be able to answer all of these questions.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Yeah. We can start off with an easy one. Can you tell us a bit about your role and BitStarz overall?
Sure, absolutely. So BitStarz started in 2014. I would say that we weren't really the first casino to offer cryptocurrencies, but we were one of the first to do so. Eventually we started to incorporate fiat currencies too. So we became sort of like a hybrid maybe between, not just offering crypto, but also fiat as well. But obviously cryptocurrency is a big part of what we do. So I've been with BitStarz for 5.5 years. In terms of my title, I don't really have one, to be honest. I'm just one of the old dinosaurs that been in the company for way too long. But yeah, you could call me casino manager maybe. But to be honest, I'm a little bit of jack of all trades, total pun intended. So that maybe describes a little bit of what I do.
Sure, that makes sense, and like you say, it's quite a general approach. And yeah, like you say, you're involved in crypto, modest enough to say you're not a crypto expert, but an easy starter for you. Something we asked Adam as well, is cryptocurrency here to stay, in your opinion?
Well, we obviously think so. And I mean, we thought so when we started the casino back in 2014. So we've, I think so far has done pretty well. I think maybe it's interesting to look at maybe what cryptocurrencies are here to stay, because when we're talking about, the term cryptocurrencies, we're not just talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're talking about all of these obscure altcoins, meme coins, and whatever it could be. So I think that cryptocurrencies are here to stay, but maybe more interesting which ones, because it's quite clear that not all of them will sort of survive the test of time.
Have you kind of got any in mind in terms of projections that you think really are here to stay, and maybe not disparage any others, but ones that you think are particularly strong for the future?
I would say Bitcoin and Ethereum, to be honest. And then I don't dare to say much more than that. I try to sort of stay conservative in the ones that I'm mentioning here. Again, like I don't want to say, go and invest in this obscure, weird niche cryptocurrency and, turn out that I'm wrong. But I would say, for the future, safe bets would be Bitcoin and Ethereum. And those are the ones that I feel sort of comfortable vouching for, if you will.
Sure, certainly. I mean, as I've already said on this show, I'm personally not a crypto expert as well. I'm quite neutral on the matter. I don't have any or haven't invested any, but certainly I'm familiar with Bitcoin and Ethereum because it's kind of, I guess, I'm not sure if it's the right phrase, but maybe the household names of crypto. And yes. On that basis, lately there's been a lot more of a mainstream surge because of big names like Elon Musk and others. How important are kind of these guys in sort of promoting crypto?
I mean, I think it has a positive impact. I think celebrity endorsement just on its own isn't really, doing very much. It's the same thing with, celebrity endorsement for any type of product. If the product isn't very good, then, celebrity endorsement might work sort of short term. But, the celebrity endorsement really has to be in combination with a product that is actually good. Mm-hmm. So in this kind of scenario where we're talking about a guy like Elon Musk, for example, accepting Bitcoin so you can buy Teslas with Bitcoin, I think that has a very, very positive impact. But yeah, I think again when it comes to celebrity endorsement in general, it has to be in combination with the product actually being useful and beneficial. If not, then it's gonna not work out in the long run.
Sure, and you mentioned Tesla there, and that sort of links into the next question. So I guess less important for you maybe is the celebrity endorsement, but more important could perhaps be events such as as you mentioned, with Tesla taking Bitcoin, the Coinbase listing. And I've mentioned this already in the other interview, but recently eBay said they're considering accepting Bitcoin. And do these the word we've been using do these legitimize crypto and sort of blur the line between maybe fiat and crypto and traditional?
It does. I mean, I think the more places that accept crypto, the better. To be quite fair, I'm not sure if for example, I think when we're talking about Tesla in general, Tesla is not just an ordinary company. It's definitely not an ordinary car company, and the CEO is nothing but ordinary, to put it that way. He's sort of known for to put it this way, Elon Musk is an extremely intelligent person, but he is also a person known for sort of trolling quite a bit. He is not maybe, I'm sure that he's appreciated by his board of directors because of the person that he is, but he's also as volatile as cryptocurrencies maybe can be in some cases. I think he's received like a lot of criticism for tweeting certain things about maybe the Tesla stock being overvalued. Got a lot of backlash for that, obviously. So, but to make a long story short, I think that the more companies and places that accept cryptocurrencies, the better. And when we're talking about big brand names, besides Tesla, such as you say, eBay, that is just going to be beneficial because it does legitimize cryptocurrencies. And for cryptocurrencies to really reach the mainstream, not just as sort of like just an investment opportunity, but rather being useful and be used as payments such as intended, it really helps to have sort of mainstream names go out and say, well, we accept cryptocurrencies, we think it's a great idea. And then again, that gives it sort of like a seal of approval by the general public, I would believe.
Sure. Obviously, this isn't an interview about Elon Musk, but you made a very interesting point. And I just maybe one more question about him, because you mentioned kind of because he's maybe a divisive character, or not sure exactly the right word. Do you think maybe that describes crypto in general, or either love it or hate it kind of thing?
I think that you mentioned something that is pretty spot on, to be fair. And I was actually gonna touch upon that, so I'm glad you asked that question. I think it is the case where when it comes to cryptocurrencies, either you hate it and you're against it and you think it's really stupid. I mean, there are a lot of people, in banking that thinks that crypto is very, very stupid, and then you will have like sellers who think that is the best thing in the world. So it's very, very difficult to sort of find a person that remains sort of neutral or is, maybe in the middle. I think it's okay, but it's not the next big thing. But normally in these kind of cases, you will either have, again, people who are super passionate about crypto and they think it's sort of like the best thing since sliced bread, and you will have those who absolutely hate everything about it. So it's very, very difficult, it seems, to find people who have sort of like a very neutral stance on it. But maybe it's just the case that people who are very extreme in either direction, regardless of that being cryptocurrencies or whatever it could be, they tend to be the most vocal ones. So maybe those are the ones that you hear most about. Sort of a neutral opinion isn't as interesting as somebody being very positive or very negative about something. But yeah, he is sort of like an interesting character. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair assessment about the kind of neutral. Like I said, I describe myself as a neutral, but that's obviously for the purposes of this interview as well. I'm not going to give my opinion either way, but I get what you mean. You either have an opinion one side or the other way. Looking specifically at the gaming market, crypto gaming, and obviously you have the operators' sort of point of view take on this. How prominent is crypto? Kind of what percentage of overall gaming does crypto gaming hold? And as an operator, would you see crypto players as more valuable?
So basically, you're talking about for BitStarz specifically, I presume, because unfortunately I don't have numbers for other other companies. I wish I did, but I don't. I mean, to your question, I have to remain sort of a little bit maybe diplomatic, perhaps, in my answer. Unfortunately, I can't give away exactly what percentage of players at BitStarz that utilize crypto and which ones are using fiat. But obviously it has been, a big part of the BitStarz identity and the business since the very, very start. I mean, if we go back to the start of BitStarz, it did take a little bit of time for that to catch on, to be completely honest. I mean, there's a lot of people who haven't even heard about, Bitcoin maybe 7 years ago. So getting people to use this weird currency that nobody has ever heard of was a little bit of a challenge, to be fair. But we are seeing more players starting to utilize cryptocurrencies. And I think that all this buzz that is going on, where people are, again, as you say, there's more mainstream sort of adoption of it. There's a lot more in the press about cryptocurrencies. All of that is helping people to get interested. And we see there's a lot more crypto guys coming in. Again, to sort of, unfortunately, again, I can't give you the specifics of the breakdown of how many people use cryptocurrencies at BitStarz, but it is a big part of our business. And I don't think it's fair to say that just because a casino offers cryptocurrencies, there's going to be some huge success overnight. But it's sort of like a slow grind. You have to build up a reputation as any other casino. But I think that also what we see is that we do have players that maybe were skeptical in the beginning. And then we have, I wouldn't say managed to convince them, but we have introduced sort of cryptocurrencies to them. And when they're seeing the benefits of using it, such as, not just super fast deposits, because, credit cards are super fast too, but also super fast withdrawals. And also, again, the transparency of being able to see transactions in the blockchain give players a lot of confidence and a lot of transparency. So we're seeing basically a lot of players who might have been skeptical in the beginning have started to adopt the use of cryptocurrencies, and we don't really see them go back to using fiat after that, to be honest.
Okay, so there's this definite sort of change you can see among some players. Some other another sort of way to describe how players use kind of crypto is, by many it's seen as kind of, at the moment certainly, investment rather than a tool for consumption. And how does that kind of affect crypto gamers? And actually, are there some coins that you guys can see are used as more transaction rather than kind of perhaps Bitcoin?
To your second question first, not really. I mean, one thing that we do notice, as of recent, the transaction fees for Bitcoin was quite high. There's quite congestion, so that would be the reason, I believe. So the fees were quite high for sending in, Bitcoin. So you do see those kind of situations where people are maybe switching a little bit to other currencies. But it tends to, when you're talking about the transaction fees being quite high for Bitcoin, for example, that sort of mainly affects low value players, perhaps, and not the top players. But sort of when you see in general that there's a lot of maybe high fees sending Bitcoins, people do switch to other currencies. So it really depends on that kind of situation, because it's not, constant really, when the transaction fee is being high. So at that times, again, you will see people maybe switching to Litecoin or Ethereum. In terms of what we're talking about, the volatility and, people seeing it as more of an investment rather than transactional. I would say that maybe when it comes to, Bitcoin, and they're seeing sort of the volatility and the price and whatnot, we actually see a lot of people probably are making a lot of money from Bitcoin because they're maybe trading. We do have players that we know for sure trade cryptocurrency. So it's not just the ones that are, buying cryptocurrencies for the specifics of using it at BitStarz, but they're traders themselves. So our hunch has always been that there's a lot of people who are actually playing maybe for the, maybe dividend isn't the right word, but the profits or the gains that they're making from trading crypto, they're using that to play at BitStarz. But there are some that are more transactional. Maybe Tether would be a good transactional coin, perhaps, because it's pegged towards the US dollar. So it's not as, it's not volatile as Bitcoin is, for example. Mm-hmm. But again, it really, really depends. depends on the person, depends on the cryptocurrencies and at what time. So there's a lot of factors that goes into what currencies to be using at a given time, to be honest.
Yeah, totally understandable. You mentioned kind of volatility, and certainly that applies to a currency like Bitcoin a lot more than others. How can you, as an operator, kind of adapt to that volatility?
That is a very, very good question. I mean, in terms of like, are you looking more from like a financial point of view, or more like a, player point of view? Because if you're looking at just from a player point of view, I think, or maybe I should say playing experience kind of view, volatility in the cryptocurrencies isn't just an issue from, okay, we accepting a deposit in cryptocurrencies and then the value has decreased with 20% overnight. But there's also something that goes into accepting cryptocurrencies that is more than just that, which is limits on the games, minimum deposit, the welcome bonuses that you offer. I mean, if you offered, 100% bonus up to 1 BTC, 7 years ago, I think it would be around maybe like $300 or something like that. Now we're talking upwards of 60,000.
Yeah.
So, it is an issue, perhaps from, a financial point of view, where you have to accept that kind of volatility in the price. But there's an even bigger issue, perhaps, in us having to sort of stay on top of, okay, what is the price? Do we need to lower the limits on games? Do we need to increase the limits on games? Are we too exposed with our bonuses because we're offering 100% up to $60,000? Again, there's a lot of other things that we need to sort of adjust as the price fluctuates. That is, again, not just in our own sort of financials, but also for player experience. Are we actually adjusting the limits and whatnot so it's desirable for the players, or are we screwing that up somehow? So there's a lot of things to keep track of, which is taking a lot of time and resources. But hey, we chose to get into the Bitcoin and the crypto game, so it's our fault. We have to live with it and find ways to navigate.
Well, the bonuses is a very interesting example that you mentioned. I mean, does that, as you say, does it take up a lot of resources? Are you having to sort of be very on your feet with your sort of marketing and bonus strategy?
Absolutely. Again, the more volatile it is, or the volatile it is, the more we have to be on guard. And it does take up a lot of resources, because it's not just affecting sort of one department, it's affecting many. Sort of everybody who's launching the games, or keeping track of the game limits, they need to be up to date on what the price is. CRM needs to be, anybody who is involved in the promotions with the CRM, for example, need to make sure that we're not giving away a ridiculous amount of funds. So it takes up a lot of resources, but in the end, it's worth it for us. I think that you just have to find ways to sort of, I mean, we're lucky enough to have had experience with this for the past 7 years. So we have sort of learned how to navigate it, but it's kind of evident that we've had to be more structured in all of this. And I think it is definitely doable. You just have to learn how to work smarter, perhaps. And again, for us, it doesn't really matter the resources that we're spending on it right now. We're allocating to this is definitely worth it in the long run, considering how important crypto is for us. So that's the way I could put it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Now I've got a final topic that I want to discuss with you, and it's something we asked Adam as well. And given the fact that you work in crypto, you're obviously you're going to have a predisposition, I guess, in the way you answer this. But this is a bit of a devil's advocate question from the kind of critics and skeptics point of view. And it's not necessarily to say that I'm one of those, but if I was, or if you were, we might say that crypto's it's a trend. It's one of these things that in history we've had many examples. Things have come and gone. They've been very popular, but ultimately still fallen back. And people might say that it's a bubble and eventually might burst. Do you ever see this as a realistic possibility? And the sort of second part to the question, if it did happen, what happens to all your players and everyone who's sort of holding crypto right now?
Well, to your second point first, if I may, that would suck for a lot of a lot of us. For the players, it would suck for us. From a business perspective, but also from a personal perspective, because I would say that a lot of the guys and gals that are working over at BitStarz, they're sort of personally invested in cryptocurrencies too. So I think it would suck for everybody involved, to be quite honest. Because if the bubble bursts and the price goes down to nearly zero, then they're rendered kind of useless, perhaps in a way. Well, if you invested in cryptocurrencies when it was $60,000 at least, and it goes down to virtually zero, then anybody can figure out that that's not a good thing, right? I mean, I'm also sort of I wouldn't say that I'm sort of neutral in this way, but I'm not an extremist either, as we talked about earlier, where you have people being in opposite camps. I'm gearing more towards crypto because I like the fundamental principle, and the sort of, maybe it's the libertarian in me, I don't know. But I'm also not going to be naive enough to say that I'm 100% certain that Bitcoin will go to like 1 million in the next year, and we're all going to be super rich, and we don't need much. We only need a fraction of a Bitcoin to buy that Tesla that we all wanted, right? So I mean, I would say that I don't believe so, but I'm not going to say that for certain. I think that there's always a possibility, and I think that anybody that sees Bitcoin as an investment or cryptocurrency as an investment, you should treat it as all your other investment. There's always going to be a benefit to risk ratio, anything that you invest money in. And I mean, it could go to 1 million, it could go to zero. And it's up to you, if you're an investor in cryptocurrencies, to figure out how much do you want to allocate in this high risk investment. I would say probably a small portion if you're an investor, because it is volatile, and is not just volatile in a long-term perspective, but a short-term perspective too. We see again the price fluctuate in Bitcoin, like it can go 20% in a day. If talking to small coins, it can be like 100% up in a day or even more. So I think that you have to factor in sort of the benefit to risk ratio, and again determine how much you are willing to put on the line for this. And yeah, it's a tricky one, but it's up to everybody to make that kind of decision. And again, I'm not, just because I work for a crypto casino, and also I'm a big proponent of crypto, I'm not going to pretend to sit here and say that again there are guarantees out there, because there's always a risk in everything that you do.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I think you've summed it up very well. There's risk, but it's exciting times, especially like we said earlier, with the kind of it's a little bit more mainstream now, and it's certainly got us talking. So there's plenty going on with crypto.
Absolutely, man.
But yeah, Ollie, thank you very much for your time and for your insight. And it's fascinating to hear from BitStar's point of view. So yeah, we thank you for your answers.
Tim, thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. So thank you so much for inviting me and BitStarz in here. So thank you so much.
Likewise, thank you very much.